Hi friends, now that you've had a good few days to get used to the arena mode in Apex Legends Season 9, one thing is clear to me: the weapon you choose is really important. Now if you don't know what arena modes is, it's a new 3v3 game mode that's come to Apex Legends in Season 9. Click the eye icon in the top right corner to watch my video with more details on how this game mode works. For this video, I'm going to look at the top 10 weapons for arena mode in Apex Legends Season 9. I'm mainly thinking about how useful they are in winning the whole game overall, rather than just individual rounds. So this involves a combination of thinking about fire rate and damage, but also considering the cost to buy and upgrade. I'm mainly thinking about primary weapons in this video, rather than what makes a good secondary weapon, but I will do a separate video on the best weapon combos for arenas, and I'll include secondary weapons in that. Of course, part of you deciding which weapon to choose depends on what you feel comfortable with, and that will always be unique to you, because you should choose what you feel comfortable with. However, hopefully my thoughts in this video will help you decide if you're not sure which weapons you want to practice with in arena mode. So let's start with a 10th place weapon, and in 10th place I've got the G7 Scout. Now the G7 is really great value for money. Certainly in round 1 there aren't many better choices, and I say that because the base version of the weapon actually comes with a level 1 scope, and that gives you a bit of an advantage over other weapons that don't come with scopes. It also has a decent fire rate and damage, and I would say actually the G7 is probably one of the best weapons to get in round 1 or 2. However, like I said, I'm thinking about across the whole game, and what weapon can you use across every single round, and I think as you get deeper into the rounds, the G7 is still strong, but not quite as strong as other weapons on this list, hence why the G7 is in 10th place. Now the cost to buy the G7 is 350 crafting materials, and you'll see as we get through this list, 350 crafting materials is extremely cheap. If you want the level 3 upgrade, it will cost you 1,150 crafting materials in total, and that's actually still fairly cheap for a level 3 upgraded weapon. Let's move on to the 9th place weapon now, and that's the Peacekeeper. It's finally back as floor loot in Apex Legends Season 9, and while it's come back with a bit of a nerf compared to being in the care package, it's still very strong for up close combat. Now obviously arena modes features a lot of small maps, and eventually you will have close fights due to the fact that the ring is closing in, and ultimately teams will be pushed closer together, and this is where the Peacekeeper becomes really strong. The other benefit is that the Peacekeeper comes with the choke built in, so it's almost like a free hop up that you're getting with the gun. And with this you also get a little bit of range with the Peacekeeper compared to most other shotguns. And of course in the hands of a Gibraltar with the dome, this weapon is super powerful. The base cost of 500 for the Peacekeeper isn't too bad for the amount of damage that you're able to deal with this one weapon. Although I would say if you want the Peacekeeper to be really effective, you probably do want to upgrade it to level 3, and to do this, it'll cost you 1,200 crafting materials. Again, this is fairly good value for money considering the amount of damage you can do with the Peacekeeper. And like the G7, this is a weapon you'll be able to buy from round 1 all the way to the end of the game. In 8th place, we've got the EVA 8. Now I've put the EVA 8 above the Peacekeeper because it's such great value for money given the damage it can do. Of course this one's purely for up close combat, and it suits you more if you're the kind of team that likes to push enemy teams quickly. And I know a lot of the time the EVA 8 makes a better secondary weapon, but actually if you think about it across the whole game, particularly early on in round 1, 2 and maybe 3, the EVA 8 can be really strong purely because it's so cheap. It allows you to upgrade it much earlier. The base cost is 250 crafting materials, and apart from the P2020 and the Mozambique, this is the cheapest weapon you can buy along with the RE45. To get it to level 3, it will only cost you 950 crafting materials, which I think is a bargain for the kind of fire rate and damage that you get with a level 3 EVA 8. And of course this means you get plenty of crafting materials left over for heals, abilities and grenades. And that's why the EVA 8 sits in 8th place. Now in 7th place, we've got the Wingman. To be honest, this one could be higher up on the list, it's just the other weapons are so strong as well. But if you think about it, the damage output and the fire rate are just so effective in arena mode, particularly where heals and meds are just so scarce. I know the Wingman is always a little divisive because not everyone can hit their shots with it, but if you're one of those people that can hit their shots with the Wingman, it really is a great option because you can do so much damage with it, but it's also so versatile. You see, arena mode is a mixture of mid to close range combat because the maps are fairly small, but the good thing about the Wingman is that it covers you for all bases, whether it's up close, mid-range, or even that little bit of long range that you do get in some arena maps. It's also fairly good value for money for the fact that you can use it at different ranges with good effect, because the base cost is only 500. And the other benefit is that it's fairly cheap to upgrade. You see, you can get to the level 3 version of the Wingman for only 1100 crafting materials, and that makes it cheaper than the G7 to get it to level 3. It also comes with a quick draw when you get it to level 3, so you get that hop up included for a cheaper price than the G7, and that's why the Wingman sits in 7th place. Moving on to 6th place, we've got the R99 here. Of course, the R99 has the fastest fire rate in the game, and this can really help in a mode like arena modes. However, as I mentioned, there is some mid-range capability that's needed in arenas, particularly early on when the ring hasn't pushed you close together, and this can be a little bit limited with the R99. Having said that, I like to feather the trigger to try and create a burst fire effect with the R99, and this helps control the recoil and allows you to do some good mid-range damage. Like I said though, this gun becomes really effective when you're in that close-up battle, and we definitely see a lot more of that in arena modes. The R99 is actually the most expensive SMG at 550 crafting materials for the base. The cost to upgrade to level 3 is then 1250 in total. Stepping into our top 5 now, we've got the Spitfire. Now the Spitfire did receive a little nerf this season, but it's still very strong. The best thing about the Spitfire is that it's got such a large magazine capacity, even just at the base without any extended mags. This makes it really useful for arenas, particularly in the earlier rounds where everyone's using the base weapon, because the Spitfire can keep shooting while your enemies will probably have to reload. The Spitfire's also got a good blend of mid-range and close-range effectiveness, so again, it's good for the smaller maps in arenas. The Spitfire is a little expensive considering the amount of damage it does per bullet, which isn't as high as some of the others on this list, but the fact that you don't need to upgrade it to level 3 necessarily to see the full benefit means the base cost of 550 is fairly good value for money. The cost to upgrade to level 3 is actually the most expensive that we've seen so far on this list at 1350 crafting materials. But like I said, the benefit of this weapon is that you don't necessarily need to upgrade it to level 3 for it to be effective. In 4th place, we've got the charge rifle. Now this weapon is perhaps one of the few counters that you've got to the bow, and while I think the best way to face off against a bow is actually to take the fight to the close range fight with something like a shotgun or an R99, I still think the charge rifle is a good counter to the bow. And the reason the charge rifle works well on arenas, because like I said, the maps are fairly small, but you do have some good high ground in each of the maps, and you can really take advantage of this with the charge rifle, because put simply, with the hit scan and the range of the charge rifle, you can literally shoot across the map without any bullet drop or issues, and this can be really effective. The charge rifle is also one of those weapons that can deal little bits of damage, and it just becomes a little bit annoying for enemy teams. And of course, in arena modes where meds and heals are limited, that little bit of damage you do with a charge rifle can make a big difference. Of course, the charge rifle is the most expensive weapon in the game, and that's probably one of the reasons why it's not higher on this list. Having said that, the good thing about the charge rifle is you don't really need to upgrade it past the level 1 upgrade. As you know, the charge rifle doesn't have any other attachment apart from scopes, and there isn't really much point upgrading past the level 1 upgrade. To be honest, you could actually make use of the base version because it does come with a sniper scope. But my preference is to upgrade it to level 1 and use the 2x HCOG. If you do this, it will cost you 950 crafting materials in total. So while the charge rifle seems expensive to start with, overall it's actually not as expensive as you would think. And now we move into the top 3, and this is where we get the really good weapons. In 3rd place, we've got the Volt. After the nerf in Season 7, the Volt just isn't as strong as the R99 in terms of fire rate. However, the higher damage per bullet means it's a lot more forgiving if you miss a few shots. It's also a little bit more economical to start with, coming in at 50 crafting materials cheaper at 500 compared to the R99. That saving of 50 materials, by the way, could be the difference between you getting an upgrade for your P2020 or Mozambique, or even being able to buy some abilities, depending on which legend you are. And of course, these extra little bits you can buy with that 50 crafting materials that you save can be the difference between you winning or losing a round. And that's just why I feel the Volt sits a little bit higher than the R99. In 2nd place, we've got the Bowcheck bow. As you're probably aware, this is one of the strongest weapons in Apex Legends Season 9. It's just so strong, it has a decent fire rate and does amazing damage for what it is. Of course, that only matters if you can hit your shots, but I should say I have won a lot of arena rounds purely because the bow is so strong. I actually made a good video about how to use the bow-choke bow, so click the eye icon in the top right of your screen and check out that video. Now at 600 crafting materials, the bow isn't cheap. In fact, it's one of the most expensive weapons in the game, and because of that you won't be able to buy it in round 1 because you only start with 550 crafting materials. However, like I said, we're thinking about the game overall and which weapons are most effective across the whole game, and that's why I've gone with the bow in second place, because from round 2 onwards you will be able to buy it, and like some of the other weapons on this list, the good thing about the bow is there aren't any extended mags, so you don't need to upgrade it to level 3. My preference is actually to upgrade it to level 2, because with level 2 you get a 2x HCOG, which for me is the best scope to go with the bow, but you also get the Deadeye's Tempo hop up, because it is the best hop up for the bow. With level 3 the only difference is that you get a level 3 scope and you get the shatter rounds, but personally I don't really think you need the shatter rounds or the level 3 scope with this weapon. So if we take this into account, getting to the level 2 upgrade would actually set you back 1000 crafting materials in total. But like I said, if you compare that to other weapons on this list, it's actually not so expensive in the long run across the whole arena mode game. And finally, we have our first place weapon, and we've gone with the R301. Now I actually put out a poll on YouTube to check what people thought were their best weapons in arena mode, and the R301 got 55% of the votes, which is way more than any other weapon got. So I think it's fair that the R301 goes into first place. As I said a few times in this video, the arena mode sees a mix of mid-range and up-close fights, and the R301 is probably the best weapon to cover both these situations. And the reason for that is because it's got a decent fire rate that can cope with other up-close weapons such as an R99 or a Volt, but it's also got reasonable recoil and damage at mid-range. The main downside to the R301 is that it's really expensive. Like the bow, it costs 600 for the base weapon, so you won't be able to buy it in round 1. But on top of this, it is a little expensive to upgrade. To get to level 3, your total cost for crafting materials will be 1,450. And personally, I think it's worth upgrading to level 3 because those attachments, particularly the level 3 extended mag, can make a big difference. I do think it's worth the cost though, and you can mitigate this cost by making sure you pick up the crafting materials from the canisters on the map. And to be honest, by the time you get to round 3 and beyond, the cost of the R301 will still leave you over some crafting materials to spend on other things like heals, your secondary weapon, or even some abilities. And that's why the R301 sits in first place, just because it's so versatile but also so effective. And that's my top 10 based on the poll I did on YouTube, but also my experience playing arenas so far. Hopefully this will help you decide which weapons to buy in arena mode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, come join our community of friends. For now though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.